What if I told you that a private corporate group is currently drafting a $100 million blueprint to, well, basically build its own parallel, self-sustaining micronation?
I mean, it sounds almost like science fiction, right?
It really does. And what if I told you they are engineering this entire massive ecosystem in an environment that is completely tax-free?
That's the part that really caught my attention.
Yeah, so today you and I are taking a deep dive straight into a 2026 strategic pitch deck. It's for a project called Pacific Prosperity Ventures, or PPV.
Right, orchestrated by the Hyperasset International Group.
Exactly. And we are going to walk through this blueprint exactly as it's laid out in the deck, literally page by page, to see how you architect a multi-industry empire from the ground up.
This is just an absolutely fascinating piece of corporate architecture. We spent a lot of time analyzing investment funds, but this is different.
Oh, totally different.
Yeah, this is the meticulous construction of a completely closed-loop economy.
Right.
You just rarely get to see strategy laid out with this level of interconnectivity.
Right. So let's jump right into the macro setup. Because on slide 1, the very first thing this deck addresses the target location, which is Brunei.
Yeah, Brunei.
They are raising a $100 million U.S. private equity fund, and they are pointing it straight at this one specific market.
And honestly, when you look at slides 2 and 3, the macroeconomic mode they've identified there, it immediately makes sense.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we are talking about an environment with 0% personal income tax. 0.
Which is wild.
And the corporate tax is just 18.5%. But here is the critical piece that really stood out to me. The Brunei dollar has a strict one-to-one peg to the Singapore dollar.
Yes. That currency peg is basically the linchpin of the entire operation. Because if you've ever tried to invest your money in an emerging market, you know that currency fluctuation is like your absolute biggest nightmare.
Right. You can win the game locally, but lose entirely on the exchange rate.
Precisely. You build a highly profitable business, you make a fortune in the local currency. But if that nation's currency devalues against the US dollar, your real returns just vanish overnight. So by pegging their currency to the Singapore dollar, which is frankly one of the most stable, bulletproof currencies on the planet, Brunei neutralizes that risk entirely.
Okay, let's unpack this for a second. It's like finding a financial sandbox where the rules are entirely in your favor, but nobody has built the castle yet.
That is a perfect way to put it. And for an institutional investor, that is huge. Plus, the deck explicitly outlines these royal policy endorsements and scarce licenses.
Right, which drastically lowers the institutional risk.
Exactly. You're not fighting the local government. You have their blessing.
Yeah.
And then you have to look at the local demographics. Brunei actually has the second highest GDP per capita in the entire ASEAN region.
Wait, really? The second highest?
Yeah. There is immense, untapped local spending power sitting right there, just waiting for premium domestic infrastructure.
And that infrastructure push is already happening. Which brings us to slide 4 and the national catalyst they are leveraging, Wawasan Brunei 2035.
Such a crucial piece of the puzzle.
Right. For those who aren't familiar, Wawasan 2035 is Brunei's grand national survival plan. They know they can't rely on oil and gas forever, so the government is pivoting incredibly hard toward a diversified tech and service economy.
And PPV is timing their entry perfectly with these massive national upgrades.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about a country that now boasts over 90% 5G coverage. The government literally just completed this massive 30-kilometer Temburong bridge to physically connect their economic zones.
Right, and they're pouring money into a major upgrade of the Mora port to handle global logistics.
Exactly.
This is why their strategy on these first 4 slides is so compelling. What's fascinating here is they aren't trying to fight the current to establish a brand new market. They're surfing a massive, heavily funded government wave.
Surfing the wave, yeah.
When a sovereign nation realizes it needs to survive a post-oil world, it opens the floodgates for foreign capital and operational expertise that aligns with that survival strategy.
So PPV is essentially positioning itself as the private execution arm of Brunei's own national dream.
Exactly. That guarantees you heavy government tailwinds instead of the usual bureaucratic headwinds you'd face in other emerging markets.
Okay, so moving to slide 5, who is the actual architect behind this?
Right, the mastermind.
The mastermind driving PTV is the HAI Group, the Hyperasset International Group, and they're led by their president, Andy Pei.
And their corporate trajectory is actually quite telling if you look at it.
It really is. They started out deeply rooted in traditional real estate back in 2012. But then in 2020, they executed this major pivot toward three core pillars: assets, tech, and new finance.
Which is a brilliant evolution.
Yeah, they currently manage this sprawling network of 12 different subsidiaries covering biotech, fintech, the arts, you name it.
That evolution from just physical real estate into tech and finance shows a highly adaptable leadership team.
Hmm.
They clearly understand that the future isn't just about, owning a building.
Right.
It's about taking physical, illiquid assets and making them dynamic through technology and financial engineering.
Which perfectly explains the corporate structure they've set up for this Brunei project on slide 6. But I have to admit, when I first looked at this organizational blueprint, it looked incredibly complex.
It does look like a maze at first glance.
Yeah.
Well,
So they have top-tier capital flowing in from Taiwan and global investors into a master entity called HAICEA. And from there, the money funnels down into these operational layers they call A and B companies.
right.
And it's those A and B companies that actually control the PPV holding company and the real industries on the ground. So what does this all mean for the safety of the project? Why use this A-B company layer? Why not just have the investors put their money straight into the holding company?
It's all about risk isolation. It's highly defensive corporate engineering. Think of it like the bulkheads on a submarine.
Okay, bulkheads.
Yeah. If you just have one massive, hollow corporate structure, a localized leak, say, of sudden regulatory shift or a downturn in one specific industry that can flood the entire ship and wipe out the investors.
Oh, I see. So if the aquaculture division has a bad year, it doesn't sink the real estate division.
Exactly. By creating this A and B company layer above the main PPV holding company, they are deliberately segmenting the high-level management from the actual terminal industries operating on the ground.
So it acts as a firewall.
A highly defensive firewall. A shock to one sector is totally contained. It ensures that the top-level $100 million structure remains insulated while they still reap the synergistic rewards of the layers below.
I love that submarine analogy. So let's actually walk through the compartments of the submarine. They are building 6 core industries, and slide 7 starts with laying the physical groundwork.
Right. Pillar 1.
Pillar 1, the International Education Park. Their core asset here is the Sarjana Education Group, or SEG. Now, they didn't just build a school from scratch here.
No, they acquired a local powerhouse.
Exactly, one that has been deeply rooted in Brunei for 30 years. And they are taking this massive foundational asset and upgrading it into an AI smart campus.
Which is smart on its own, but
But here is the part that I thought was brilliantly pragmatic. They are aggressively adding vocational courses, specifically in aquaculture and food management. They are explicitly tying their curriculum directly to that 2035 macro vision.
it's a brilliant solution to one of the biggest bottlenecks in any emerging market, which is human capital.
Yes.
They aren't just educating students for the sake of it. They are literally training the future workforce for the other industries they are building in this exact same portfolio.
That's crazy. They are solving their own future labor shortage before it even begins.
Exactly. And by integrating AI in these future-focused curriculums, they elevate this campus into a premier destination, which then draws in wealthy international students and their families from all over the region.
But of course, if you are bringing in wealthy international families, you can't just have schools. People need culture. They need entertainment.
Right, which naturally leads to Pillar 2 on slide 8.
The world-class National Arts Center. The deck notes this fills a massive gap in Brunei's entertainment scene.
A huge gap, yeah.
They are constructing a 2,000-seat main hall equipped with what they call active acoustic systems. And they also have a secondary 1,000-seat multi-purpose hall operating on dynamic pricing and VIP tiers.
And those active acoustic systems are incredible. For those wondering, it's essentially a high-tech digital manipulation of sound. With the push of a button, the room's acoustics can change to perfectly suit a delicate classical symphony and then instantly switch to handle a loud rock concert.
Oh, wow. So they don't have to build separate venues for different events.
Precisely. Along with dynamic staging, it guarantees the venue's flexibility. It can host international operas on a Friday and then local corporate conventions on a Monday.
Which just maximizes the utilization rate of the building.
Exactly. And the economics behind this are fantastic. They are creating a magnet for cultural experience tourism. Before this, if wealthy citizens of Brunei wanted a world-class theatrical experience, they had to pack up and fly to Singapore or Taiwan.
So PPV is actively capturing that outbound capital flight.
Yes, keeping that discretionary income inside the country.
Okay, so they have the elite campus to educate these international families and the art center to entertain them. But where are these people actually going to live?
Ah, slide 9.
Right, slide 9, high-end real estate. This is pillar 3. Now, this is split into 2 parts, and here's where I need to ask you about this, because part A involves coastal residential villas with a staggering promise.
The buyout guarantee.
Yes, a 100% government buyout guarantee. When I read that, I thought, wait, how is that even possible in private equity? It sounds way too good to be true.
It does sound unbelievable on the surface, I agree. But you have to look at the local market mechanics. Brunei has a severe undersupply of premium, modern residential housing.
Okay.
Yet the government is actively trying to attract foreign talent and high-net-worth expats to fulfill that 2035 vision. The government literally needs these villas built to house the exact demographic they are courting.
Ah, so they are perfectly aligned.
Exactly. By aligning perfectly with the state's desperate infrastructure needs, PPV secures that buyout guarantee. The government is essentially underwriting the risk because the real estate is critical to national security and economic transition.
Wow, so that severely de-risks the capital layout. The government's basically pre-ordering the housing they desperately need.
Precisely.
And that leads into part B of their real estate play, the dual location wellness villages.
This is such a smart play.
It is. They're placing one village right near the SEGS campus, specifically designed for those students and their families who come to stay. And the second is a resort in East Malaysia, targeted at high net worth retirees who need integrated medical support.
Here's where it gets really interesting, tying it back to the ecosystem concept. Real estate isn't just a physical asset here. It isn't just something to be flipped for a one-time margin.
Right.
It's a mechanism to capture and physically hold human capital within their managed properties. When a family moves to Brunei for the education, PPV provides the premium housing. When a wealthy individual wants to retire in a tax-friendly environment, PPV provides the medically supported wellness village.
So they aren't just building houses, they are building homes for the specific people they want to attract.
Exactly. Once you enter the PPV orbit, your fundamental living needs are entirely met by the group's own infrastructure.
Okay, so they've built the physical foundation. Now, moving to slide 10, we shift gears to how they generate massive daily revenue. The next 3 pillars are the cash engines.
Right. Aquaculture, entertainment, and F&B.
Let's start with pillar 4, high-tech aquaculture. This sector is booming in Brunei. The deck points out it had a 25.5% growth rate in 2024.
Which makes it the fastest growing non-oil sector in the country.
And they aren't just throwing nets in the ocean. They are utilizing AI-monitored indoor recirculating aquaculture systems, or RAS, to breed high-value species like barramundi, grouper, eel, lobster, and sea cucumber.
The implementation of that indoor RAS technology is incredibly smart. By farming fish in a closed-loop indoor system, they constantly filter and recirculate the water.
So practically zero disease risk.
Exactly. No ocean pollution, no temperature swings. But the true strategic genius of this pillar is the geography.
How so?
By operating strictly within Brunei, PPV leverages the country's globally respected halal certification. That certification is exceptionally strict, and because Brunei is a sovereign Islamic nation, their halal stamp carries immense weight globally.
Oh, wow, I hadn't thought about that.
It acts as a golden ticket, an export passport. It allows PPV to export premium seafood, not just to standard markets like the US and Japan, but directly into the massive, high-trust consumer markets of the Middle East and the entire ASEAN region.
That is brilliant. A religious certification acting as an economic multiplier. It just instantly opens up billions of dollars in market access.
It really does.
Now, moving from the farms to the fun on slide 11, pillar 5, next-gen entertainment. Similar to the Arts Center, PPV acquired scarce entertainment licenses to stop locals from spending their money abroad.
Right.
We were talking about indoor VR spinning, family arcades, and highly immersive tech like HADU, but the crucial mechanism here is that all of this is driven by a 2-tier membership model, Basic and VIP, and it's completely integrated with a proprietary digital token.
This is exactly where we see the tech DNA of the HAI group shining through in their earlier corporate pivot.
Yeah, you can really see that new finance influence.
Exactly. The scarce licenses create an impenetrable moat against local competitors. But the implementation of a proprietary digital token is the real star here.
Why is that?
Because By requiring customers to convert their fiat currency into a digital token to access these games, they gamify the spending.
Yeah.
It inherently increases consumer stickiness. You always have a little bit of token balance left over.
Oh, right. Like at an arcade, you always have to come back to spend the rest of your points.
Precisely. And more importantly, it provides the corporate group with flawless, real-time blockchain data on consumer behavior, foot traffic, and spending habits.
Which leads us straight to the dining table on slide 12. Pillar 6, halal F&B and biotech.
This is vertical integration at its absolute finest.
It's the ultimate farm-to-table pipeline, but instead of a local hipster restaurant, it's a closed-loop national corporate supply chain.
Perfectly said.
They take their own aquaculture products, mix in imported Aussie beef, process it all under halal standards, and serve it up. They are bringing famous Taiwanese beef noodle brands directly onto the campus and into the art center.
And the cost-saving mechanism here is staggering. By controlling the raw materials upstream through their own fish farms, they completely bypass third-party suppliers.
So their operational costs plummet.
Drastically. When you don't have to pay a middleman for your ingredients, the profit margins at your restaurants expand massively.
And the deck also mentions they are utilizing a biotech division to take the byproducts of the aquaculture and turn them into functional health foods.
Right. Squeezing every single drop of commercial value out of their production line to create high-margin supplements. It is a marvel of efficiency.
Which brings us to the climax of this entire presentation on slide 13, the ultimate moat, the closed-loop ecosystem.
This is where it all comes together.
Yeah, how would you synthesize how these 6 pillars feed each other? Because when I look at it, it honestly reminds me of going to Disney World.
That is the perfect analogy. If we connect this to the bigger picture, it is a beautifully orchestrated cycle of supply and demand, completely contained within one corporate boundary. The education pillar brings in the families. Those families immediately create demand for the real estate pillar, and they generate daily demand for the F&B pillar.
And the aquaculture pillar supplies that F&B sector at rock-bottom internal costs.
Exactly. Meanwhile, the art center generates massive foot traffic, funneling people into the entertainment and F&B venues. Every single pillar actively feeds the others.
And the deck calls this their digital glue. The entire ecosystem is tied together by that token and RWA system, ensuring money spent anywhere stays within the HAI group loop.
Infinite internal circulation.
Yeah, you pay tuition, you buy lunch, you go to a VR arcade. The capital never leaves the company's ecosystem.
Precisely. In traditional business, you lose value at every transaction point to outside vendors. Here, PPV captures the margin at every single step of a person's day.
It's just staggering. And looking at slide 14, they aren't stopping at the border of Brunei. They have a 2026 expansion blueprint ready to execute.
Brunei is just the start.
Right. Once this Brunei hub is spinning, they are planning resource extensions into Indonesia for mining and logistics, and domestic scaling in Taiwan, expanding their Kuni and Yume store footprints and putting e-mart counters into international trade channels.
It's a classic hub-and-spoke expansion model, executed on a macro scale. Brunei acts as the high-yield, low-tax fortress. Once that closed loop generates massive free cash flow, they use that war chest to expand.
So, wrapping up with slides 15 and 16, what does a $100 million investor actually get for buying in? The deck breaks down the pitch into the 5 rights.
Right, the 5 rights.
First, asset rights backed by RWA or real-world asset technology, digitizing physical assets on a blockchain for liquidity. Second, token rights, sharing in the circulation dividends. Third, management rights, providing equity dividends from the business units.
Which is standard, but the next 2 are unique.
Yeah, fourth is product rights, giving exclusive quotas for those high-value biotech and aquaculture products. And finally, membership rights, VIP access to the wellness villages and the arts center.
What they've done here is effectively unbundle the traditional equity share and repacked it as a comprehensive lifestyle and financial vehicle.
You're not just getting profits on a spreadsheet.
Exactly. You are getting VIP access to the physical ecosystem your capital helped build. It's highly attracted to global high-net-worth individuals.
It really is a masterful pitch. To briefly wrap this all up, Pacific Prosperity Ventures is utilizing royal backing, zero tax, and a 6-pillar closed loop to build a resilient, counter-cyclical fortress in Brunei.
It absolutely is. And it leaves you with one final, truly fascinating question to ponder.
What's that?
When a private corporation's ecosystem aligns so perfectly with a nation's sovereign survival plan, where exactly does the company end and the country's economy begin? Is the future of private equity not just investing in standalone businesses, but effectively funding parallel self-sustaining micronations?
Wow, that is definitely something to think about.